Hello everybody, we've got a repair job on today. So as you can see, we're at the slurry store and we've got our mixer. So if you saw the video I did a little while ago about stirring the slurry with a 178, you might have heard while you were watching the slurry being stirred, the bearing, you could tell it wasn't happy. The bearing was in a poor state. Now we knew that, and the bearing actually was going while the tower was full, but we needed to empty the tower before we could change it. So the reason it got thick was because the reason we had to add the water to it was because the bearing was gone. We couldn't keep it stirring as we would normally do. So that is why it got thick in the bottom and we didn't stir it as much as we should have done. Purely down because the bearing wasn't gone, but it was going. We knew it wouldn't last. If we left it on, we knew it wouldn't last long. So we used it very sparingly, just enough to get us so we were empty. So just in case you've never seen one of these before, obviously the shaft goes onto the tractor. In here is the bearing that's gone. Shaft runs up through that tube, and inside the tower there's a big 3-bladed propeller, probably 18 inches across, that obviously turns and stirs the slurry inside. So what we're going to do is strip it down. We take the shaft off, take the guard off first, and then we'll look at the bearing. Right, so hopefully the camera's picking this up. So this machine is made by Storth machinery in Lancashire, up in the north of England. Now the reason I'm telling you this, we phoned them up to get this new bearing, so I wanted all the parts here before I started. So what we did, we phoned Storth at 10 o'clock one morning and we ordered the new bearing and a new seal, and these two arrived the next day by 11 AM. So that's very good going. So Storth deserve a big thank you. So if you've got some slurry gear, you give Storth a ring because they're very good to deal with, very quick service. Right, so here we are with the guard off. So the first thing to do is we've got undo 4 nuts, and there's a plate here in front of the bearing. So what we'll do is rip these nuts off, pull that plate off. So there's the safety plate off, or retaining plate, I'm not quite sure what it is. Retaining plate. So we'll just give these bolts a clean up, just to make sure the nuts come off easy. Right, so before we go too far, we'll have a close look. So there's a big bearing here, and if you see, there's 2 grease nipples. That one pumps grease into the actual bearing, and the one behind, and there's a seal behind here. There's a thick rubber seal there, and that nipple there pumps grease into the gap between the bearing and the seal. So you can see her a little bit clearer on the new one, the 2 grease nipples. And there is the second one coming out into the gap, because that seal sits on the back. And that second nipple fills this gap up between the two, and this seal here keeps the slurry away, seals around the shaft. Right, so now it's time to get brave, undo these nuts and pull the bearing off. Hopefully it won't be rusted up. It is nice and greasy, as you can see, so hopefully it'll come off. But Storth did say to me, not when we bought this bearing, when we bought the actual machine, I inquired about changing the bearing, and they said there's no worries, you can do it when the tower's full. He said it will leak a little bit, but it won't empty the tower. He said just put a bucket under, you'll be fine. Now whether he meant a 3-gallon bucket or a loader bucket, I'm not sure. We'll see what happens, see if they were right or not. Right, so we've been struggling for a little while. I probably won't show you that because it's a bit boring. We've got him forward a little bit. He might have moved a bit on that circlip ring, not much. And looking down in the grub screw holes, it's not rusty, it's just a tight fit. So Mr. Bearing doesn't want to play nicely, so I'm not going to play nicely anymore. Right, so it's time to get serious now. Hydraulic puller. It's not ideal pulling on the corners, but I don't quite have enough clearance to hook in here. So we'll see what happens. we're going. We're on the way. Right, got to the end of our stroke. But he's moving easily, so we'll wind back, screw, put them back. We're going to be fine on the corners now. We've got it moving. Screw down to take up the slack. Make sure we're still on. Screw them tight and go for another stroke of the plunger. And moving nicely in there. And still not leaking too bad behind yet. Problem with these, as soon as you let the pressure off, they do tend to collapse. So you've need 3 hands to hold it all up. Tighten the ram down. Now normally you would have a fitting on the end with a pimple that would sit in the centre drill and the end of the shaft. But I'm so tight on length here I can't get it in. These are the longest legs we got. But we're not putting hardly any pressure on, so it's not damaging the shaft, so there's nothing to worry about. And then when you get to the end, often you can just screw the whole lot in just to get that last little bit off. And don't drop it on your toe. So here's the shaft the bearing was on. It's not corroded, it's just a little bit dry. Some old grease. We'll polish that up. You can see there where the grub screw is biting into it. So we'll take this off, we'll get some emery tape. Just give that a polish up just so it goes on nicely for the new one. Alright, so I'm going to do this before we take this old seal out, just in case we get a gusher. But I think if we were going to, it would be coming out by now. So we just put a little bit of light oil before we use the emery tape. Or WD-40 or duck oil. We do tend to use duck oil quite a lot here because surely ducks are a renewable source of oil rather than WD-40. And then give it a good polish all round. So there we are, nicely restored surface there. A little bit more oil on there and the bearing will slide on nicely. So now it's time to get really brave and pull this seal off. Oh, well, no dramas there. Now we'll take this circlip out. You don't want to push the new seal over that and wreck it. Pliers don't open wide enough. Take 2. We'll just give that a little polish back in the back there. Over here. So here's our new seal. What we'll do is, you see, it's a tight fit, so that's why we had to take the circlip off. So we'll lubricate this with a little bit of grease, because we don't want it to be dry. We don't want this seal to turn inside out as it slides down. So we'll put a bit around the inside. we go, over the circlip groove, and there's a tight fit round there. Just roughly line the bolt holes up. So circle it back on, over the first groove. If you give it a turn, you'll know he's in right. The grub screws are slackened off in the bearing, and we need to make sure we've got the grease nipples to the top. There we go, as easy as that. Right, so we're all nipped up. We'll just go around them evenly to pull it in square. And we want to put a bit of tension on that rubber seal, but we don't want to squeeze it too much. Now we need to take the Allen key and just tighten up the grub screws. And as you can see now, we've stopped that drip, so that's sealing up nicely there. Then we'll pump a load of grease into the seal gap to fill that. And we'll just put a little bit into the bearing, not too much. Right, so the next thing to go back on is a circlip into this groove. Now the original one was actually broken when I took it apart, so I've got this new one. It might, it's the closest I can get, but it might be a bit small. So we'll see if he's any good. Yes, it fits. There's a slightly wider gap than normal, but he's the right thickness to fit in the groove, and he'll keep the bearing there, so he'll be all right. So next stage, put this star-shaped thing back on. Now, if I was a proper YouTuber, I would do this, and it would be clean. But it's not working, so I'm going to have to go and do it a different way. Right, so here we are now. If I do this, we'll pretend that last bit never happened. So we'll stick this back on. Nuts on. So there we are, job complete. Just got to put the guard back on now. Now I've been using the guard, I've been mounting the camera onto the guard, so I'm not sure if I can film putting it back on. But I just thought we'd look in the bucket. This is our total leakage of nothing. Little dribble that came out. So they were right, you just put a bucket under and it doesn't leak. So let's just put that guard on. So there we are, job completed, all back together. And here's the old bearing and the old seal, and you can see how big and stretched that's become, which is what was letting the slurry up to the bearing. I mean, the bearing doesn't actually look too bad, but as you can see, it's very, very stiff. So there you are, folks. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Just a little insight of what happens behind the scenes every day. We're not sat on tractors all the time, things break and they do need to be mended. So please give the video a thumbs up, please subscribe to the channel, And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.